What is up, everybody? Welcome to AK Plays. I'm AK. Let's play. Alright, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about the meta after the Striker nerf. Now, we all know that the Striker nerf is coming. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know if they're going to cap stacks at 50. We don't know if they're going to manipulate stacks so it's 1 for 1 instead of 1 for 2. We don't know if they're going to just nerf the healing, nerf the damage. Basically, it could be anything. I believe we are getting a state of the game tomorrow, so we may get some information on it tomorrow. If not, then I guess we'll just continue to speculate. However, I already did a video kind of speculating on the Striker nerf and kind of saying goodbye to Striker. But this time I'm going to speculate on the meta after the Striker nerf, because I hear a lot of people talking about how it's going to be the rise of Banshee. And I kind of agree with that, but I think there's a lot more to it, and honestly I'm kind of excited about it. I know it's kind of an unpopular opinion, especially because I use Striker a lot. I mean, in this whole clip I'm going to be using Striker, and usually it's when I'm facing off against more people than my team has, and I need the kind of the power of Striker. But I also enjoy using other builds. I really love using different things, and during this meta it's kind of tough because if you try to mess around and use something fun, all of a sudden you're fighting 6 people who are all using Showstopper Striker, and it kind of sucks the fun out of the game. Now, I'm not saying I hate on Striker. I love Striker. I mean, it's a great gear set, and it's definitely the best. And I don't think it's overpowered. I just think that it's so widely used that it kind of kills the diversity. Which, I mean, either way, if it wasn't nerfed, I would have been happy, and if it is nerfed, I'm not upset. So, either way, enough on that. We'll talk about what's happening. So, when it gets nerfed, I think that there's going to be a few gear sets that are going to rise to top tier status really quickly. Now, every gear set obviously is good at different things, and so different gear sets are going to rise in different categories. I think as a solo gear set, right now the go-to solo build for good players, in my opinion, is going with a 9k stamp Striker because it allows them to fight a lot more people and they can still dish out a good amount of damage. Also, people use 7k Striker for solo. There's of course people that use Nomad for solo, but I think that after Striker gets nerfed, it is going to be Nomad everywhere running solo builds. If you're solo and you don't have the access to the powerful version of Striker that we currently have, Nomad is going to be the easy choice. You could run a Hexo or a hybrid, but I think that those won't have the same kind of passive healing that Nomad gives you. It won't give you the extra lives that Nomad gives you, and I think that with all of Nomad's buffs, it's going to become the top tier solo build after Striker's nerfed. So that's what I think for solos. Now, what I think for Rogue Hunters is kind of what everybody already sees coming, and that's Banshee. Banshee already is extremely strong, and I think it definitely beats Striker. In a face tank, when the Striker is Manhunt, the Banshee is going to kill them. That is the one thing that I'm afraid of, even when I'm at 100 stacks with my Striker. If I'm Manhunt and someone calls out that there's a Banshee, I'm going to strafe a little bit, and I know that I have to take them really seriously. When I'm usually at 100 stacks, I'll face tank anyone, because I'm confident in my build and my stacks and my accuracy. But if I know that there's a Banshee on the playing field here, I'm going to be very cautious because they hit so hard. Now, in the next update, if Striker's nerfed, I think Banshee is going to be pretty unchecked when it comes to rogue hunting, and rogue hunters are going to wear it, and they're going to decimate rogues. So rogues are going to have to compensate for that, which is going to bring me to my next point. The builds that are going to rise in teams for going rogue are pretty low-key. Not many people talk about it, but if Striker gets nerfed, the build that's going to rise to the top of group status is D3 FNC. D3 right now is checked by Striker, because if you're running a D3 and somebody has a Striker, they can stack up on your shield, and then your teammates have to deal with a bunch of Strikers that have 100 stacks, and your teammates hate you because they get burned through immediately. Now, if Striker's nerfed, D3 is unchecked, and D3 will be able to give the team those stam buffs by giving them that resistance, and that will be able to check the damage from Banshee. Meaning that a group is going to have a D3 on their team, they're going to get the D3 buff, and that will protect them from the Banshee damage, which is the Rogue Hunters in the next update, in my opinion. So I think that D3 will rise as in the group status. I think that Banshee will rise as a rogue hunting like must-have, and then I think as a solo build, Nomad will rise to the top. And then I think that's basically the big 3 changes. However, I think team DPS builds might see some changes. You might see hybrid builds, you might see Hexo builds, you might see some Alpha Bridge with Vigorous chests, you might see a little bit of Banshee with Vigorous chests, maybe Savage Gloves, and you could see a little bit of those kind of combinations as DPS builds. However, in my opinion, I think that the king of the DPS builds that is really slept on at the moment, it's a serious underdog, is Lone Star. Lone Star you barely ever see, and when you do see it, a lot of people take it as a gimmicky build, and they think like, oh, there's a Lone Star, somebody's trying something fancy. Now, Lone Star is extremely good and an unbelievably underrated build. I love running Lone Star, and I think that it delivers crazy DPS. Now, with Striker nerfed, I don't think it's going to directly affect Lone Star, but I think that it'll make it so it's more viable, because you don't need to say, yeah, I'd run Lone Star, but I could also use my Striker and have 100 stacks and hit way harder. Which it necessarily doesn't, but it's comparable, and that makes things harder. So, I think that with Striker nerfed, we're going to see the rise of Nomad as a solo rogue build, we're going to see Banshee rise as the rogue hunter build, must-have, and then we're going to see D3 rise as a must-have in groups, and we're going to see Lone Star rise as a possible DPSer, because right now it's not really common. It might become a little more common. We're also going to see Alpha Bridge, Banshee, hybrids, we're going to see Hexos. All of those kind of builds that are really underdogs at the moment are going to rise, not to top tier status, but they'll rise to being viable, which I think the DZ will be kind of interesting with the Striker nerf. Am I excited about the Striker nerf? Not necessarily, but at the same time, I'm not upset about it. I think it's going to shake up the game and it'll be fun. But that's my 2 cents. All these are just my opinions and speculation. So if you agree, disagree, or if you have any questions, just throw them in the comments.